lot.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to the talk. Great to be here. And it's going to be a fun, relaxed talk. We're going to do a lot of fun and hidden things in QGIS. So if you're using QGIS, some of this will surprise you. Some of this will open up new doors for you. There are lots and lots of links. Everything that I'm going to show you, there's a step-by-step tutorial that I've written, or a course material, or a video. So if you want to grab this link, this will give you access to everything that is linked from here. This is what made the final cut when I first started and made the presentation. It was 2 hours long, and then I had to cut it down. So there are some stuff in the last slide which didn't make the cut, and you can go and see this. All right, I'm going to give folks a couple of minutes just to grab this link. I also have this at the end of the slide. I run a company called Spatial Thoughts. It's a training provider. We create a lot of open source content. One of the stuff we do differently is create all our training materials under open license and make it available free of cost to everybody to use. Lots and lots of people use it. Likely that if you use QGIS, you would have used some of our materials. And if you are teaching QGIS or you want to take our material, we also license it openly, so you can go and teach and adapt it and teach it to others. The idea for this talk came about, I've been teaching advanced QGIS classes for over 5 years. Every time I'm teaching a class, we have people from all over the world, different domains. And often people ask, how can I do this? And I said, oh, we can do this. And a few years back, I was in a class and somebody said, I like QGIS, but I need to use Esri because I need to connect to an ArcGIS server. And that's the only reason I'm using ArcGIS, and I would love to get rid of it. What do I do? I said, oh, QGIS has a built-in way to connect to Esri REST servers. You can just open up, put an Esri server URL, and your data loads. If it's a fixture layer, you can even download the data as geo package. Or it's a raster layer, you can connect and browse to it. And he was like, wait, what? QGIS can do that? And this happens almost every class. So I picked some of those instances where there are things that exist in QGIS which will make your life easier. Some of the things that we've figured out and taught people, and it'll be nice for you to kind of know. I do a lot of work with data processing and automating workflows. So the processing toolbox is one of my favorite places in QGIS. One of the stuff that usually comes up is, I have a bunch of photos. Can I create a map out of that? And if you've been taking photos from your phone, likely they are all geotagged. So if you come on a trip like this, you've taken pictures, they're all geotagged. And QGIS has a tool, built-in tool, where you can say, here's a folder full of photos, just create a map out of this. It's just a processing algorithm. So if you go back and just take a dump of your vacation photos, open the tool, run it, you get a map. By default, most camera apps will just capture lat long, so you'll get a lat long. Some camera apps will capture directions, azimuth, pitch. All of them can also become part of your attribute table, and you can do some really cool things with it. So if you're going on a field trip, data collection trip, just enable those or take pictures with those camera apps. And then when you come back, just import them in QGIS, and you can do a lot of interesting things. Here's a demo of that. So there's a tool in your QGIS toolbox. Say import geotag photos, show a folder full of photos, run it, and you get a vector layer where it's a map of photos, and then you get an attribute table. And I used to be the one in the family who sent a map after each vacation. I stopped doing that. People don't like that. Another thing is when you're running any processing tools or workflows, you may want to run it outside of QGIS. So you say, I'm doing this complicated spatial join or something. I need to open QGIS and run this. QGIS has a way to run all your processing tools as a command line process. That means you can run this without even QGIS being open. So you can, any tool that you run, you might not have noticed in the bottom of your processing tool, there's a button saying, copy this as a QGIS process command. So you say, I run this once, I configure my tool, copy this command, and then you can close QGIS, open a terminal, and paste this command. And it'll just run and process. This is great for automation. If you're a command line ninja, you can say, I can now write some bash scripting and include QGIS in my scripting. If I just write a simple bash loop and go through all my files and just process all of them together. So it's great for automation. It's also great for kind of doing things on a schedule. If you say, I want to run this command every day, fetch some data, do some processing every morning, you can schedule that as well. So here's a demo of that. Every processing tool at the bottom in the advanced section, copy as a QGIS process command. So if you just don't want to build the command yourself, you can just first configure this tool visually, copy this, and then go to a terminal, paste it, and it just runs. The tool lives at a different place on different operating systems. So if you hit this blog post, I document where everything is and how you can build those commands. Super cool, super useful, and sometimes it's really nice to kind of automate your processes just on the command line. Everybody who's worked with messy data knows that when you work with data from different sources and try to join them, they don't always match, especially for data that is in non-English languages, and people have typed in English, people type it in a different way. So what if you get data from two different providers and you want to join them? Sometimes it's the same place, but they've spelled it differently. There's an extra space, there's an extra character. How do you match them? And the way to kind of do this is called fuzzy match, where it said, I don't want an exact match. Find something that is closest to this, looks similar in string. QGIS has a bunch of fuzzy matching functions built in. And that means you can now say, while doing the join, don't use an exact match, use a fuzzy match. Here's an example. This is the data in India. It's all local place names in different languages. People type it differently. Person's type with a G, somebody typed it with a D. So these two are the same names, but when you try to join them, these fail because they are spelled differently. So you could say, I want to not get the exact match, but go through all the options and pick me the closest one in the data. You could also add conditions. If you had two spatial layers, you can say, find the closest one within 1 kilometer. Right? So you can kind of add both spatial as well as text conditions on this. The way you do this is just you first run a field calculator and find the closest match for each field, and then do a regular table join. And you can see here, you can do this match. There is no, it'll be nice to have a processing tool that does this by default, but it's now possible to achieve this just using the QGIS expressions. And if you want to look at it, you can try this. This is a blog post that I've received the most feedback that it has been life-changing for many people. So again, if you're working with messy data, go and check out how to do this. Animations, QGIS can do 2D and 3D animations. It's built-in. I was once at a conference and I saw a presentation. Somebody said, hey, we got this huge amount of funding from a defense group, and we built a tool to create 3D fly-throughs. And I went to the person after the talk, and it's like, open QGIS and say, you can do this in QGIS in 2 minutes. You didn't need to build all of this. Right? So you can view 3D data. QGIS can load all kind of 2.5D 3D data, point clouds. And once you have this in a 3D viewer, you can kind of create a fly-through very easily using a simple keyframe technique. So here's an elevation model, which you can now view it in 3D. And if you hit that animation tool, just set up keyframes at different places and say, at this time step, I want this view. At this time, I want this view. And when you hit play, you get an animation. Right? Again, this has improved a lot. The rendering has improved a lot. And you can now create really cool-looking animations in QGIS with a bunch of data. And it just works out of the box. So something that you can quickly create and send to somebody. You can also do 2D animations. There's a temporal controller tool that's built into QGIS. So any temporal data that you have, you can load it. QGIS understands time now, so you can navigate through this with time and create animations. One of the things you can do is you can kind of hack the temporal controller to animate anything. So let's say you have a sequence of features, and you just want to show in what sequence they were captured. You can just say, my time field is this FID field. And then I can just step through time as if it were time. You can use this in a lot of context. I recently used this to create an animated cartogram. So cartogram is kind of map where you distort each feature in proportional to a variable. It's a kind of visual way to show some variable, which is kind of visually striking. Most popular kind of cartograms are population cartograms. So if you say, I have all these states or countries, I will resize all of them based on how populated they are. And that means some countries which are very big, like Australia, which is not very populated, will become small, and some smaller countries which are highly populated will become big, right? So you can kind of visually get this feedback. But once you just create a cartogram, you can say, oh, this is a cartogram, but I don't really see what was the original size, right? What you can see the output. So it'll be nice to kind of show the transition from the full size to a small size. And that animation can kind of show how the thing changes. And you can now say, I will have an animation, use this temporal controller, and say, as you, from start to end, I will just animate them based on a dummy time field. There's a nice scale function in QGIS expression which can scale features along with the other functions you can combine and create this kind of animation. So this is an animation of showing cartogram of the US states based on the population density. So you can see a lot of Midwest states very big, but they become very small, and other states become bigger. Right? So I can kind of create this and kind of visually show the transition from this. And again, you can apply this technique for many, many different kinds. So just a tip on, you can use temporal controls to do all kinds of animations. Actions. Raise your hands if you used a QGIS action. Great. There are a lot of people who don't know actions. This is going to change your life. This is probably my favorite hidden features. Every class I teach, I tell people about it because it's such a powerful feature. It's there since a long time. It's right there in your face. Most of them, you never even notice it's there. And it is so powerful, it can really enable a lot of different things. What are actions? There's a toolbar in QGIS, which is an actions button. So it's a built-in thing. If you have an action defined on your layer, that button gets enabled, and you can select that button and then click on any feature, and then something will happen. So actions are set up so that you click on a feature and something happens. What that something can be, it can be any Python code that runs. That means you have a built-in way to run arbitrary Python code when you click a feature. Imagine what it can do for you. Many times people come and say, I want to build a plugin. And when I hear the idea, I said, that's 2 lines of Python that you can set up as an action. You don't need to build a plugin, right? So kind of a few lines of Python code, you can call a processing tool, you can run some PyQGIS code, or you can call an API and display the results, right? All of that can be possible using this built-in tool. The best thing about actions is, versus doing a plugin or something else, is actions are defined on a layer. So when you save a layer, the action gets embedded. That means if I've created a project where I want certain actions to happen, I'll define those, I'll send the project to my colleagues, they open the project, they have actions, they don't need to do anything else. And suddenly the project has all the magic that comes built in. So really great feature to use QGIS. Once somebody termed this, they said, oh, these are like baby plugins. And I really like the term for actions, and you can kind of do this very easily. Show some of the examples. I was so fascinated by this that I built an entire course on actions, so you can go and check out all the things. I'm going to show you a few select examples out of this. Here's an example to say, I want to select neighbors. So you select a feature, and I want to find all features that are touching that feature. It'll be nice to kind of select that, so I'm working on something, and say, I have this action button at the top, which gets enabled because I have defined the action. You can say, select the action to select a neighbor. You select this, and it just go and select the neighbors. It's just running 2 lines of Python code. This is find the features, find the things, and set them to be selected. You can find 1st degree, 2nd degree neighbors. And you can imagine the workflow where you set this up and say, I always want to edit neighbors. So I'll select this, and suddenly I've selected automatically, and I can do something like this. If you work with lots of image data, let's say you have gigabytes of satellite imagery tiles stored on a computer. You want to view them in QGIS, but you can't load all of them together at once. One nice way to do this is you can run this tool called GDAL T-index, or there's a QGIS processing tool called create a tile index, which is just go through your folder and create a vector polygon of all the bounding boxes of all the tiles. So you load that up, you can set up an action saying that, and that layer will have the path to the data. So now you can set up an action is, I will click a tile, and using the path, you can just load that particular tile. That means I may have gigabytes of data, I have this whole layer I can load, and I can go and say, I want to see this tile. You load it, it just fetches the tile without loading everything at once. And then when I'm done, I can say, remove this tile. Right? It's a great way to manage your imagery data. It can also fetch data from network or from COGS or elsewhere and other things. Right? So you can now have a really easy, intuitive way of managing large imagery collections with just simple actions. And if you go and see the code, there's just a few lines of Python code that can do this. The last one, many people say, I want to see Street View in QGIS, or I want to see some external data that is in QGIS. We had a participant who said, I'm working on a project, I have a bunch of data, I'm trying to map pharmacies, and there are a lot of fake pharmacies, so when we map this, and we want to actually see a street view, and see if there's actually a pharmacy that exists there. And you can do street view, but even better, you can do Mapillary, which is an open source project. There's an API. So I built an action where you click on a point, it fetches the Mapillary panorama from the API, and just displays this within QGIS. Here's an example. You can now say, here's a pharmacy, you click on it, it just shows you the image from Mapillary right in QGIS. Right? And this is an example to say you can call in an external web service and display the data in QGIS. This could have been a plugin, but it's just an action with a few lines of code. Right? So again, do check out actions if you're curious. It can automate a lot of your workflows. Lastly, I spend a lot of time hacking QGIS from the user side, not from the developer side. Like, what can I push QGIS to do something that is not meant to do? Or maybe people didn't think about when they built stuff. And some of this translates into some useful stuff that you can do down the road, but a lot of this is for fun. One of the things I spent a lot of time last year is to build this kind of interactions on QGIS. That means you can make your map come alive as you kind of move your mouse around. And I discovered that there is a variable that QGIS gives you in expressions called canvas cursor point, which has the current position of your cursor. And that means if you move around, this variable has the location of your cursor. And you can set up everything in QGIS has a data-defined override. So the size of the point, the color, the attribute, info bar, whatever, everything has a data-defined override where you can say, now you can use the location of the cursor and update that dynamically. So what's the first thing I did? Well, I want to make my QGIS make these features follow my icon. You can make, as you move around, the features will follow you around. So let's say you have this QGIS logo. I want the pointer of the Q logo to follow me around when I move my mouse. So here's my cursor position. I can say this is a logo, compute the angle between the cursor and the compute the azimuth from the point to the cursor position, and set the rotation of QGIS based on that angle. So if I now move my cursor, the angle changes, the QGIS icon rotates. And that means as I move around, this QGIS is always looking at my cursor. Right? And if you do this and say, here's an expression, put this as a data-defined override for rotation of my QGIS logo. And now when I move my icon, the QGIS follow. It's spooky and fun at the same time. This was just done for fun, but what you can probably use this for, something that I've been wanting to build, and I've not got around to do it, that imagine you have lots of data that you want to show for a feature. One example would be you have a feature where there are a lot of, say, migration data. So from New Zealand, where people do migrate. And there's so much thing, you can't have so many arrows. And if you put arrows for each country going to other countries, that'll become too messy. So you just say, I'll show wherever you hover over a feature, like I hover over New Zealand, it just pops up all the arrows. If I go to Australia, it pops up all the arrows for that, because I can now change the symbology based on where my cursor is. So you can kind of create those kind of interactions based on the cursor positions. But if you don't just want to set it up, go to the tutorial. Just a fun thing to try this out. Once I discovered this, you can do other cool things. I saw Hamish Campbell, who's from here. He had posted something like this. He figured out how to do this reveal maps. And again, this is using this cursor position where you go. There are two layers. And as you move your cursor, it reveals what's underneath the layer. And again, using some expressions and some masking, you can do this. And kudos to him to figure this out. And now the QGIS community is obsessed with this. I posted this. I think everybody had made this kind of maps from the data. And it's just kind of cool thing to try this out. Lastly, I want to show some hidden things fun things that are there. Many software has Easter eggs. QGIS also has Easter eggs. These are things that are not documented. They are hidden somewhere by developers for users to find. In QGIS, you can trigger this Easter egg by typing a keyword in the coordinates bar. So there's a coordinates bar at the bottom, which displays your current position of a mouse. But you can go and type a keyword, and then it triggers some behavior in QGIS. So for example, when QGIS starts, it's always a blank map, right? It's not good. Sometimes you just need to get some data. You can go and type world, W-O-R-L-D, in the coordinates bar, press enter, and it loads a world map. This is actually a vector layer that gets loaded, which is has attribute table and everything, so you can go and play around with some data. So again, just typing the world triggers this. I was annoyed that the QGIS embeds a world map, which is kind of the standard world map, but there's no correct world map, right? Every country has different borders, and if I loaded the default world map that QGIS gives in India, that's illegal because Indian government doesn't approve of this border. So I said, why can we just change it to load a country-specific one? So if you go to this blog post, I have a little Python code which says, I want to load this specific country's border when you type world, and QGIS will fetch that data for that country and replaces the default packet. So I can do this. But I had to do this because I couldn't show this Easter egg in India, otherwise I'll be in a lot of trouble. So you can try this. Other fun one is you can go and load any data and type dizzy, and your map will start shaking. I always love to demo this with my earthquake map. So you can actually have an earthquake map that is shaking. You can't stop it unless you know the secret trick, which I will not tell you today. Go and watch my video. So if you try this today, you will know there's no way to stop the shaking unless you go and see my video. So all right, we are done with the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Yajapal. Is it anybody got any questions? Bound to be some. One over there.
How did you find the Easter eggs?
It's a well-known open secret among the QGIS community. Now you are part of the community, so we entrust the secret with you, and you can pass it along. So again, the idea is, people build this thing. There are kind of new stuff that gets built every few years by people coming together. There's a new one that got built recently of pizza. So if you go and, there's a way to get pizzas in your QGIS. So there are fun little insider jokes. So if you work with the QGIS community, you'll kind of find out about those. It's a great thing to involve your kids as well. My daughter loves those Easter eggs. So she made the video series about she's demoing all the Easter eggs. So you can check this out.
Any other questions? No. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yajapal. Put your hands together.
Just before I leave, a shout out for a conference that we're organizing in India. FOSS4G Asia is happening in India early next year. You're all welcome. We'd love to have you and host you there. Thank you.
Awesome.